Today, we're going to look at some of the different methods that are available for looking up financial data in Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. We'll also look at some of the reporting options that we have. So first, we'll look at an example of some of the general journal transactions that we posted in our previous video, and we'll look at how we can see those transactions and also see them based on their dimension. And then we'll look at some of the trial balance reports that are available. And then we'll see the process for generating account schedules. And account schedules are pretty much the financial statements that are automatically loaded when you set up Business Central. And then we'll also look at the account schedules overview, which is a quick way to see your financial statement based on a certain time period and dimension. So first, we'll look at how to see transactions that have posted to a certain GL account. So we'll go over to Finance and Chart of Accounts. And we'll take a look at one of the accounts we used in our previous video. So we'll look at rent expense. So we could see rent expense has a link where we can see the balance, and we can click here. And once we open this up, we can see all the transactions that are making up that balance. Now you'll notice that I have department code as my dimension that I've been using. I have it in this window so we could see it quickly with this view. And we can see these are some of the transactions that we just posted recently as an example. So what I could do is I could filter this by my department by just clicking my filter icon. And you'll notice it's already filtered to account 60100. So I can add an additional filter to my department code. So if I wanted to only see the transactions that have affected sales department, I would just put that in there, and now you'll see that it's only showing the transactions that were posted to the sales department code. I can also add other filters if I wanted to as well, based on all these different fields that we see available here. I can then clear out my filter. I'll clear it out here first, actually, and just bring it back to just account 60100. So now I have seen all my transactions for 60100 again. Another method that you can use is if you go to Entry, you can set a dimension filter here as well. So I can tell it that I want to filter by department, and then I can just select from my list. So if I want to filter to sales, I would just select that. And now I'll see the same list again, all the transactions that were posted to the sales department. And then it gives me a message just to let me know it's being filtered. So I just go back to that window and then go to clear filter if I want to take that out. So those are two methods to quickly see the different transactions based on a certain GL account. And keep in mind, in these windows, you can always export to Excel. So if I go to Page, I can export this by going to Open in Excel. Now if I exit out here and I go back to my Chart of Accounts window, I can quickly generate a trial balance from here. So if I use my Report menu, these are some of the common reports that are used. There are additional trial balances that we'll look at in a second, but this is the one that's probably used most often. So if we go to this trial balance detail/summary, we can put in some different restrictions here. So right now it's showing all accounts, so we'll change that to just look at accounts with activities. And we'll include the transaction detail. And then we're going to put in this date range exactly as it is. So we have December 1st, 2020 to December, we'll actually make that 31st, 2020. So it can match up with some of the test transactions that we just looked at. And we'll leave everything else empty in preview. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. And this, so this particular trial balance has the detail, and it's showing, so here's account 40200 as an example, and it's showing some of the descriptions from when we posted, and then it's showing the amount, of course. And if we look at rent expense, we'll see the same thing that we just saw when we looked up that account number. Another thing we could do from here is we could actually filter by department. So we'll put in that same filter for sales as an example. And then we'll preview that again. And now we'll see that everything's restricted to only the sales transactions. So if we go down to our rent expense, you'll see we don't have anything there. And the advertising expense has a couple transactions. So this is filtered down quite a bit. If we filter to a different department, admin in this case, now we can see that that's where all the transactions were coded to rent expense. I'll take this out and clear that filter. And so this report is helpful because you could quickly generate it in the detail or the summary format. So right now I chose to select the detail. If I turn that off and then go to preview, I can get a quick trial balance summary report. So now I can see the standard trial balance where it shows me all my main account number codes, and then my beginning balance, debits and credits, and ending balance. Another trial balance report that's helpful is if you want to see the same report, but based on your dimension. So in this case, our department. In this case, I'll do a global search and I'll look up trial balance. And you'll notice that in my reports and analysis section, if I show all, you'll see that there's quite a few trial balance reports available. So I definitely suggest to explore them in case there's a certain one that you like. They're all just different kind of variations and formats of the report. This one will actually compare to the budget detail. There's also, this trial balance can also compare to a prior year if you wanted to see that. And then this is a trial balance by period. So we're going to actually look at the one by dimension. So if we go down here, at the very end, we have this trial balance spread global dimension. So I'm going to choose the same dimension that we've been looking at, department. And I'm going to include the actual change. And I'll skip accounts with zero amounts. And then I just need to put in my date filter. And we'll use December 2020. And then we can preview. Notice that in this window, you can also select a print to Excel, and then it'll just send it directly to Excel for you. If you have a lot of different dimensions, it's recommended to do that because it won't be able to fit it all on the page. So now you'll see that we have a trial balance and it's broken out by our department. So we have all of our accounts, and then we have our total amount, and then we can see how those balances are related to each department in each column here. So if we look at rent expense again, we can see the breakout between those three departments: admin, production, and sales. So this is really helpful if you want to analyze your accounts by your dimension, and it also exports really nicely to Excel. The next thing we'll look at are account schedules. And first, if we go over to Finance GL account categories, this was completed as part of the setup when you set up Business Central and you created your chart of accounts, and then you assigned all those accounts to the different account categories. What's nice about this is when you set up your chart of accounts, you're also essentially creating your financial statements. So in this example, these are the categories that were used, and you could quickly see the balances related to all these categories. So we can see that our income 40200 has a balance of 665,467.5. So this is helpful if you want to just get a quick snapshot of where all those balances are at. Now, if you want to run an actual financial statement, it's going to use this format, and we can go to, we'll go to Finance Account Schedules. So what we'll do is we'll run an income statement, and first I'm going to actually change the column layout. So if I go to edit list, I can change this. So I'm going to go to just the standard net change first, so you can see the standard report. And then I'll just go to print and print. So it's confirming my account schedule, which is pretty much all the account numbers that are making up this report, and then my column layout. And keep in mind that this account schedule will get automatically updated based on your categories that we just looked at. So when you create a new account, wherever you assign that category, it's going to automatically show up on your financial statement. Name, date range, December 1st to December 31st, and then we'll preview. So we can see a really basic income statement that matches up with the categories that we just saw on the previous window. We can see our rent expense has a balance for December. We have a net income of $50 for December. I'm going to close out of here, and then I'm going to cancel. The other thing that you could do that's really nice is you could quickly see what those amounts are. If you go to, you can actually do it from this previous window here. So if I have the income statement highlighted, I could quickly go to process and overview. When I do that, I get a nice overview of what my financial statement will be, and I also have the ability to drill into the amounts. So in this case, I'm viewing it by the month. I could also change that if I wanted to see the entire year. And you'll see that it updated my date filter for me. I'll keep it at month. And then when I scroll down, I could see my balances for each line on my income statement. So for rent expense, I could just click this link and I could quickly see the balance. So I have what account is making up that balance. So in this case, we just have one account, 60100. Then if I scroll to the right, I could see my net change. And if I click that link, I can immediately see the transactions that are making up that balance. I could also filter this by department. So if I wanted to filter it to admin, now my rent expense balance changed. And if I click my net change and then do the same thing to see the detail, now I just see the transactions that are making up the amount based on the admin department. So this feature is really helpful if you want to quickly look into what's making up the balances on your financial statements. The other thing you could do is you can run your income statement with your columns showing your departments, similar to the trial balance that we looked at. So I'm going to edit my list again, and I'm going to change to a different column layout that I created called department. And I could take a quick look at that if I go to process, edit column layout setup. I can see that all I did in here was I used this department code totaling column, and I did have to personalize my window and add this column. But once I did that, I just filtered each line, so each column is filtered to a different department. And then I have a total column, and it's just adding up my columns 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to go back to print again and click print. And then we'll put in our date restriction and preview. So this time we're running the same report, except we're using the department column layout. So now we can see this income statement broken out with the departments in each column. So we can see our rent expense that we looked at earlier is broken out by department. And then sales only has postings that went to the sales department. And we can see a net income for each department, and then the total being $50. I could see the same thing if I cancel out of here and I go back to process and overview like we did earlier. Now you'll notice that it's using the department column layout that we just used when we printed the report. So I'll view by month, and now you could see that it's broken out by department. So if I wanted to just see the transactions that are making up rent expense for the admin department like we did earlier, I could just click this link and I'll immediately see that. And then again, I could click my link and see the details. then I could come back here, and of course I could change this if I wanted to see it for the entire year, and my amounts will immediately update. If I'm using budgets, I can also put in different budget filters, and I could use a column layout that has the different amounts and the budgets in there, and then I could see all of that in here as well. So this is a great way to just quickly see the amounts that I've posted at the summary level and then drill into the detail. So we went over how to look up data based on an account number and view it by dimensions. We looked at some of the trial balance reports, and then we also looked at how to generate account schedules and quickly look at the overview of the account schedule.